Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching the breakfast show live on Nile TV International, and now it's time for our first topic of discussion. And we're going to be talking in our first topic of discussion about the parliamentary elections, the second and final round of the second phase and the final phase of the parliamentary elections had just ended, and the vote counting had also started. We're waiting for the official tallies to be out by the High Elections Commission. The second phase of the elections were held in 13 provinces across the country, and according to some observers, the turnout of the second phase was a little bit higher than the first phase. And to shed more light on this very important development that Egypt is witnessing, the third and final stage of the political roadmap put forth post-June 30th, we're most delighted to be joined in the studio by Mrs. Hediat Abdel Nabi, and she's a journalist and editor-in-chief of People's Rights magazine. First of all, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the breakfast show.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mrs. Hediat. First, how did you follow up the past 2 days of the elections, and how smooth was the electoral process?
Well, it was very exciting because I think yesterday was the climax of the second round.
Yes.
It was extremely telling. I was very impressed with the results of the list, which is For the Love of Egypt. Because the results show something very clear. It is a vote not for parliament. It is a vote for President Sisi.
Vote of confidence.
It is a vote of confidence. And it is a vote for his tone and style. People who voted for the love of Egypt, I assume they voted for stability, development, and welfare, which he always speaks about. Secondly, they voted also because they want a country movement. We want production. We want to become on top of the world. And he says it all the time.
Boost the economy.
Yeah, and he says, مصر أم الدنيا, مصر قد الدنيا. So I think it was a vote. It's like a plebiscite. People went, and it is a very indicative sign that where the majority would like, I know that that list did not form yet the majority in parliament, but by voting for it overwhelmingly shows the direction of the people of Egypt.
Yes. And also, Mrs. Day, if you can tell us, speaking about In Love of Egypt, there had been some accusations thrown at this list by the former deputy head of the Supreme Constitutional Court, accusing this list of being of holding talks with the terrorist organization, the Muslim Brotherhood, and of being in a coalition, a secret coalition with the Brotherhood. To what extent do you believe that these accusations are true? And also, what do you think would be its repercussions on the electoral process?
Well, I really can't judge definitely whether she could come out, Mrs. Tahani El-Gibali, and throw those accusations in public in that manner without any information. But whether it is valid or not, whether it has happened or not, whether these people are peaceful people in the Brotherhood or not. One of the people whom she accused came out yesterday on television and denied that he's a member of the Brotherhood. From the legal point of view, I cannot really tell you what is how this event will unfold, because she has made complaints already. On the election process itself, I don't think it has affected it, because most commentators said it has affected it yesterday. I do not agree with them, because she launched her press conference at noon, and the general public, which is the overwhelming majority of the voters, I assume have no idea of what she said. except at night,
Yeah.
including myself. And I'm not general public. I'm supposed to be following the events. I was looking for her declarations. I really didn't find them until people started talking at night about it. So I don't think it has affected the turnout nor the result of the election.
Because as you have just kindly noted that they're getting an overwhelming or a sweeping majority.
Exactly. And I think people were determined to go for a new country that we are speaking about, and not to keep loopholes that would affect the balance of stability, development, etc.
Yes.
And therefore, I don't think it really has affected the second day of the elections. It might do something later on, but I don't know what it will do. I can't judge from now because from the legal point of view, I don't know what would be the repercussions of her complaints.
Okay, how, Mrs. Hediat, did you follow up the incident that took place early in the morning when a blast happened in front of a hotel where judges and media people are staying?
It's very sad.
Yes.
Because on the day that we are going to start our celebration, that a new parliament is in place, that I know that there is a repetition of the vote for those who did not get 50% plus one, but we will know tonight at least, indicators of where we are. Initial results.
Yes.
And it's really sad, but it is a message.
And it is expected, by the way. It was
It's
expected.
a message which is counterproductive to those who have done it.
Yes.
Because I, as an Egyptian, when I wake up and hear this message, or hear that an explosion has happened in the hotel where you have judges and media and so on, my heart trembles because are there any casualties? I hope not, etc., etc., etc.
Unfortunately, one was killed. Yes.
Yeah, but we don't know the identity of this person yet.
Yes, I think he's a policeman.
Okay. Well, it's very
or
sad.
conscript, a police conscript.
Very sad. Of course, our condolences go to his family. It shows that when I hear something like that as an Egyptian, I say, all right, you have set the tone. We are in a battle.
Yes.
We are determined to win the battle. And you have got it for yourselves. I mean, you did a crime. We will not sit idle in front of that crime. We will confront you, and we will build our country. So I think it was counterproductive for the people who executed the bomb in front of the hotel. It is productive for us. I mean, it's not productive in terms because we have a casualty and we might have injured. It's productive in the spirit of the country that we should be strong, face the challenge, and build the country.
Mrs. Hediat, also, if you can tell us about the representation. You, as a observer, did you see a portion or a segment of society absent from this election, or do you think that there was a fair and equal representation of elderly, youth, women? Your comments.
No, youth were relatively absent, as we all saw. I mean, we saw it in the ballot stations. It wasn't something that needed to be confirmed.
Why do you think so?
I don't know, really. I really have no idea. It's their country. It's their future. They should be more active. Is there a feeling of lack of confidence among them? Are they not satisfied? Maybe these are messages, and we have to take them into account.
Or maybe they're overconfident in the president.
Well, I would support the president. I mean, if I'm overconfident with the president, I must go and give him more support.
Yes.
What is amazing is the enthusiasm and energy of women. They are the majority.
They were heavily present.
They are the majority of the voters. And surprisingly, having been the majority of the voters in every step which is important for Egypt towards democracy and the rule of law, they were not given the quota for representation in the next parliament. I find it gross. I find it really gross. I don't like it. And I believe that the next parliament should uptake immediately a quota for women in parliament, a respectable quota, 30%, 40%. 50% would be better, but I know it's difficult. The elderly also voted strongly. So you have women, the elderly, were the categories which really made a difference. About the turnout of the vote in general is not very encouraging, even in the second round.
So your expectation is going to be below 30%?
They were speaking yesterday that places moved to 25% up.
But still, how do you explain the increase in the number of expats who voted in the second phase? It was more than the first phase.
Well, probably expats came from those governorates mostly that we were voting on.
Yes.
I mean, in the first round there were other governorates, and in the second round new governorates.
Yes.
Probably most of the expats came from areas where the voting was taking place, so they were more enthusiastic to go and vote.
Participate.
Also, it's a shame what's happening with expats, because it's still their country. I mean, even if you live abroad, your soul is with Egypt. So you have to really be a participating citizen. And maybe this is important to show that in the future we have to have a quota for expatriates in Parliament itself.
So what's your take on the facilities that was offered yesterday for the elders and for the handicapped?
Well, I'm really impressed with the presence of a wheelchair in front of each station, ballot station. I saw it when I was going to vote in the first round.
Yes.
And I was really impressed because it shows that human rights is for the first time in implementation.
Yes.
Also, I saw a beautiful photo of a mix of the army and the police force, a man who is handicapped, helping him on a wheelchair and taking him into the ballot station. This happened.
And also in some cases, sorry to jump in, but in some cases, the judge himself would go down and leave the voting room to a person that could not go up the stairs.
Yeah, it was really, you know, this compassion, which is truly an Egyptian character, came at the top during the voting process, which is something very welcome.
So can you tell us more about the challenges expected to face the upcoming parliament?
Well, there are many, many challenges. God be with them.
Yes.
But the most important challenge is, of course, the beginning of, I think there is a time limit for reviewing the laws that have been enacted before Parliament takes place. This would be very important because there's so many. So it will take a lot of their time in the first, I think, 2 weeks or something like that. And then we go into the enacting of putting in place the implementation process of the laws. And there are some laws that maybe should be rejected by Parliament. And then you have to put in mind when we speak about people's rights that people must feel a change with the new Parliament. There must be something on the ground that happens that shows that...
Are you talking about people's rights, the one you're heading, or the people...
No, people's rights in general. And, for example, the places where people are packed in the slums, people must feel a difference. There must be a change. There must be a move to, model villages where you take the people in one quarter of the slums and put them in a place where they live decently. People must feel, relaxed and not in tension all the time. Traffic must be organized. As the president called for reduction of prices for commodities, people must feel this. And education, health care, All these essentials must be felt by every Egyptian and not by a group of Egyptians.
As an observer, what do you think should be the first bill or project law that they should be working on after, of course, as you kindly noted, after reviewing the laws that were ratified the president in the absence of the parliament? What do you think should be the first project law that they should be working on?
Amending the constitution in terms of women representation. There would be a new quota that would say that parliament must be made up of 30% of women or 40% of women. I would be very happy if this happens.
And what about the message sent to the whole world by holding the parliamentary elections being the last step in Egypt's roadmap?
Well, this is very important, especially that the parliamentary elections went smoothly.
Yes.
We heard about clashes here and there.
Minor clashes.
But they didn't turn into bloody clashes.
Yes.
And I think the only person who lost his life because of medical reasons, not because of something that happened. So in a way, it was peaceful, it was orderly. People wanted to vote. It showed to the world that we are going through change and in the right direction. Then it shows also that we are going into a phase where the next parliament has a great opportunity to develop a majority in parliament that would lay the grounds for a real democracy and an opposition, because some newly elected members of parliament have spoken about forming the coalition of the opposition and having a very strong opposition. We should not fear a strong opposition in parliament. We should welcome it.
This is healthy.
If you talk about check and balances, a strong opposition in parliament will have an eye on the other majority and will have an eye also on the legislation process and will observe the government, etc., etc., etc. So I think it's a very positive mix in parliament.
And do you think that the nominees this time were given more time for campaigning, and this was reflected on the high turnout of voters that is more than the first phase?
Was there a difference between the first phase and second phase in timing for
campaigning,
for lobbying and campaigning?
I think that it was a little bit
well, maybe
yeah, for
longer.
the first phase, I guess it was a little bit longer.
Shorter or longer?
Longer. I believe the first phase had a longer period for campaigning.
Yes.
And the second phase, no. Which phase was longer?
The first one.
Okay, then the turnout was more in the second phase, right?
Yeah. But given that Greater Cairo and the capital is involved in the second phase, this might have given it a boost.
Yeah, maybe, but you had Alexandria in the first phase, for example.
Second largest city, yes.
Yeah, and it's a big city, so I'm not very sure. I mean, I think because there was a problem with the parliamentary elections and the candidates. Most people didn't know their candidates.
I think this time people were discussing names. It
Not
wasn't
only
like that.
names, people did not know who are these people.
Yes, this was a very common answer among regular citizens. When we asked them, did you go to vote? Yes, but at first I didn't know who am I voting for. It took me some time to decide on the candidate, that sort of speak.
You know, it was a big problem for voters because you would, at the end of the process, say, well, I'll vote for the party which I believe I'm confident with.
But you still have to vote for individuals.
Yeah, but members of a party.
Yes.
It's written in front of them that this is
affiliated
to that party. So if you don't know the people, you will vote for the party, okay? Which is also good because this means that you are strengthening the parties in Egypt, and this is welcome.
Yes.
We had very weak parties before this election, and I think during this election they have matured, Egyptian political parties. So in a way, it is positive also. But of course, I don't deny the negativism of the story that we could not tell who are we voting for.
Speaking about the cons or the disadvantages, did you see during either the first or the second phase, did you see any corruption, any, as they call it, political money? Did you see any of the campaigners directing voters? Did you see any irregularities? Or was the atmosphere by any chance reminiscent to what was happening during ousted Mubarak's era?
Well, talk about the usage of money was all over the country. I mean, I didn't need to see it to say that it was used, you know. Irregularities, I don't know, I didn't hear about, you know, a person voting and then coming back and voting again. I didn't hear about that. But money was used extensively in the elections. And even there was a fee, I mean, not a fee, I mean, you would say the vote is for £500, the vote reached 1,000.
Yeah.
There was a bidding process even. It was like...
How do you see that?
I don't know, because you really cannot control it. Because it's done in a way that people cannot really be pinned down to receiving money. They don't give a receipt. So, or you can't see the receipt if they do. So, I don't know how to control it. I don't know if we can compare it with other countries, what happens in other parliamentary elections. Is it that evident that people use money to influence votes? Yes, people use money to influence votes in terms of holding a meeting, in terms of doing a dinner, in terms of
press conference,
a speech, while people would donate money for the campaign. But it's clear who donated money for the campaign. It's registered. And then they get their benefits later on, like in the American presidential elections. Those who donate very big money become ambassadors of the United States overseas. But this is legal. Money that is filtered in legal channels. Here, of course, the money that was used is quote-unquote corruption. But can you control it? That's the question.
Okay, Mrs. Hediat Abdel Nabi, editor-in-chief of People's Rights Magazine. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight, and thank you for being with us on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you so much.